Okay, everyone. Welcome to AdvocateHub class. Thank you for joining us. I see we have some new names on the list here today, so to the new people, welcome and thank you for joining us. And to the experienced veterans, thanks for coming back. I don't know if you're just checking on the computer and going to get coffee, but hopefully you're actually there listening to me, and we definitely appreciate you coming in and joining us. So, who am I? So my name is Heather. I work on the Influitive support team along with Dawn. So if you ever send any requests to support@influitive.com, you should either hear from me or Dawn. Shannon used to be on our support team, so many of you know Shannon as well, and we get some guidance from her when we put these things together too. So that's me on the slide. I think kind of obviously the person on the right. And let's just jump right to it. So, class overview. Today we're talking about optimizing levels and badges. So here at Influitive, we've started doing these things that we're referring to as sprints. So if you ever worked with developers, sometimes you know they work in sprints, so they'll spend 2 weeks really focused on a topic. The CS team at Influitive is doing this now as well. We're doing 3-week sprints around specific topics, and right now our topic is badges and levels. We just find that often sort of the resources that we have on badges and levels and the way that we teach badges and levels doesn't necessarily communicate the value that we're trying to drive here. And so the objective of this class is to basically just talk more about badges and levels, get you to understand some different gamification principles, and then give a little bit of guidance into how to optimize your levels and badges. Now, it wouldn't be an Influitive AdvocateHub class if I didn't start out with a demo of some new fancy feature changes. So bear with me for a second because I'm just going to share my desktop and I'm going to demonstrate a cool new feature in our challenge player before I come back and get started here. Okay, so this is the home page, which I believe most of you are familiar with. So it used to be in the past that if someone clicked a challenge and completed it, the window would be a little bit smaller. The layout was a little, just the way the font and everything looked was a little bit different. We've changed that now just to make things that pop a little bit more and to give more space for your challenge. So your pictures are going to look a little bit bigger and shinier and fancier. But what the real gem is here, let me just respond to this challenge here and just watch what happens on the screen now. So a couple things happen. First of all, there's a points animation that counts up. Second of all, there's a notification here that's like a message to me saying, hey, way to go, you just earned some points. And then third, down here at the bottom, we have some suggested challenges. So now let's say, okay, cool, I did that challenge. Let me do this one too. Maybe I'll choose an image and submit. So the idea behind the challenge suggester is basically to just sort of keep advocates who are completing challenges in that flow of completing challenges. So as long as there are challenges, the challenge suggester looks for challenges that are the same challenge type. So these are fun challenges. And then after that, it looks for popular challenges. If neither are available to the advocate, it basically doesn't put anything there. And then you can just click anywhere on the page and then go back to the home page and find something else or kind of choose your own adventure. So anyways, that's what that's all about. And now we're just going to go back and learn about levels and badges. So if you have any questions about that, you can add them into the chat and we can talk about it, or you can email us at support@influitive.com, or you can go to support.influitive.com and talk about it in our community forums and just kind of share your opinion with everyone else. So here's our class overview. We've talked about new features, so we're moving on to advocate engagement versus levels and badges. So, the one thing that sort of the point of what we're always trying to teach you is different ways to engage your advocates. So levels and badges no different, and we wanted to sort of dig into the data this week and figure out what is the relationship between advocate engagement versus levels and badges. We got some the results we found were positive, but they were also a little, I believe data scientists would say, spurious. A little bit of the whole causation versus correlation type argument going on here. So what we found here, and this is what the chart says, is that for advocates who had earned a badge in the last 30 days, they on average had completed around 17. If they were an existing advocate, so they had been an advocate for more than a month, they completed 17 stage completions, and they had done 17 stage completions, so stage is an aspect of a challenge or maybe a whole challenge. They'd done 17 stage completions in the last 30 days, as compared to people who had not earned any badges. They only did 7 stage completions. The difference was less noticeable for new advocates, but for existing advocates, it's sort of interesting. It's sort of, I mean, either it tells you that, yes, badges only go to people who do a lot of activity, or B, there is some sort of like intrinsic motivational aspect to the badges that drives people who get badges to go on and complete more challenges. And you do kind of see that new advocates, for those who have earned badges and those who have not earned badges, maybe they're not really exposed to the concept yet, so it doesn't sort of play a role in their motivation. So we're not really too sure what this means. This is sort of the data we found we wanted to share with you guys. It seems to indicate that there's some level of correlation between having badges and doing lots of stage completions, and you definitely want your advocates to do more stage completions. So we're kind of leaning in the direction of, yes, the badges help with that, and yes, this is a good thing. But we can't say too strongly what's happening here. So some other patterns that we found looking into badges. First of all, most AdvocateHubs out there don't make great use of these features, and there's not very strong distribution of advocates across all levels. So I'm going to show you a graph in a minute and explain that a bit better. But what we did find is that the advocates who have reached a high level, who have gone and advanced through all the levels, earned a lot of badges, those people are remaining engaged, and they have a high level of engagement, and they create a lot of value. Would they have done that if badges didn't exist? I mean, we can't say that. We kind of are working with the opinion that there is some relationship there between even just helping you to identify someone who is an achiever, someone who is willing to really go above and do a lot of excellent advocacy. Those people are earning a lot of badges, and they're staying up in those high levels doing a lot of advocacy. So once they do all the activities, they get really into it, they get all the badges, and I think they sort of build that connection with the program. They feel like they're playing the game, they're in the game, they get it. And those people at the high levels are like just across the board very, very high engagement, very active, and just driving a lot of value. So here is, if you would like to check the level distribution of your own AdvocateHub, this is how you would do it. So you go to the Reports tab in the admin view of your AdvocateHub, and you select the tab that says Recognition. And then from there, it's going to show you some different data about your levels. So essentially here, it's saying, this is, I think, from the Influitive VIP. And this is showing that 92% of all advocates are in the low level. So just that intro fan level. And then 8% are in the advocate level, which is level 2, and then there's a small percentage of people who are at, you can see in the chart here, it says 6 are at the evangelist level. So there's a couple of things we can learn from here. I mean, first of all, for VIP, we, being the creators of AdvocateHub, invite like a ton of people into the AdvocateHub. So you do also have your not joined advocates who are sitting in this big green piece of pie, but you know, it might be either a little bit too difficult to advance through the levels, or perhaps advocates aren't being driven specifically to advance through the levels. So this is something that Truman has already taken notice of in Influitive VIP, and he's designed like a whole crazy, amazing badge matrix and badge design program. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit towards the end of the class, but this is a good way to identify whether or not advocates are able to easily move through your levels. Are they moving up? Are they able to play the game? So how do you think about gamification? It's not just about pretty shiny badges. There's lots of principles to it. But the first thing to really understand is that different people are motivated by different things. So you might be sitting here thinking, oh, like, I don't really care about the gamification sense of my AdvocateHub. I don't really care about badges. Badges don't motivate me. Why would they motivate anybody else? And what you have to understand is that there are different people out there that are motivated by totally different things. And this little lovely chart here kind of highlights that perfectly. So this guy named Bartle put together this is basically the Bartle chart of gamification, or of gamer types. So he says that there are 4 different gamers out there. There's the killer, the achiever, the socialite, and the explorer. And these are the 4 sort of like personalities of people going through a game type activity. So, you know, AdvocateHub is very much, there's challenges, there's points. So these personalities are very much existing in your AdvocateHub, and you want to make sure that you're not ignoring any of the categories. So the achievers and the killers are both very motivated by the idea of levels and badges and things like that. The killers group in particular, which isn't a large percentage of people, according to our head of PM, Zaki, but still nonetheless, it's an aspect, and you want to make sure you're catering to everyone, making sure everyone feels like they have a place to participate in your program. So something to think about, just look at this and think about, which person am I? Who would I be? Am I a killer or a socialite? I'm not really too sure who I would be. I think probably either a socialite or an explorer, but I mean, you can also change. I think it's certainly fair to say that advocates might go through different stages of having or sort of following any one of these personality types. So, how do you motivate advocates with game mechanics in your AdvocateHub? So, when I was putting together this class, I did a lot of chatting with Truman because he's done a lot of research on this type of stuff, and he actually went to a gamification conference earlier this year to do some deeper learning. So, there are two main elements to motivating advocates to essentially play the game. So there are two currency methods that advocates, or that people in general, that game players are working with when they're playing, and this is sort of the principle of gaming and gamification. So the two currency methods are transactional currency and experience currency. Transactional currency is just very basic. It's what are people getting to buy something, and what can they buy with whatever it is they get. So whether they're getting points or coins or dollars or anything like that, and then what can they do with those points? What's the real value of what's the real spending value, and what can they be spent on? So you can kind of evaluate this in your hub, and we've done a class in the past on engaging advocates and using rewards, and this is the type of thing those are examples of transactional currency. Your advocates get points, they can use their points to purchase rewards or stuff like that. So you want to be asking yourself questions like, does the point structure make sense? Am I making sure people are earning enough points to actually redeem the rewards that are available? Are the rewards even desirable? That type of thing. The second thing, and this is what we're a little bit more focused on today, is experience currency. So as you play the game, the more you play, you get more of your transactional currency, your points, and that lets you do more things. In the same way, your experience currency works by a similar principle. So your experience currency is what you create through your levels and badges. And the idea of experience currency is that the more you play, the more you have access to. So you play more, you access more badges, you access more levels, and as you reach those higher levels, or as you access different badges, the experience changes. So let's say you get to level 2, some different activities would be theoretically available for you that you wouldn't previously have had access to. So the example Truman gave me was Grand Theft Auto, which I'm not especially familiar with, but the idea is that as you play the game, you can kind of choose the activities that you take, and then that changes the experience of the game. And the longer you play it, the more experienced you become, the more difficult it becomes, and also just the more interesting elements that arrive. So, I mean, this is something you can kind of think about when you're playing games or watching your kids play games, stuff like that. It's just you're going through your everyday life. Look for this notion of experience currency. Look for, as experience is increased, as more experience is earned or gained, what is the change in the game experience? And that's something that you want to keep in mind as well with your AdvocateHub, thinking, as someone is an advocate for longer, as they're participating in AdvocateHub activities for longer, how does the experience change? When someone has been such an active advocate that they're now at the 3rd level, is that experience different? Are they getting asked to do things like go to marketing events with executives? Are they being asked to be part of exclusive beta test groups? Things like that. These are, part of the motivation of leveling up is that the experience is also different. So that's something you definitely want to keep in mind. So, variety, of course, is the spice of life. And different players want different experiences from your AdvocateHub. So one way to do this is by providing lots of different paths. So you can accommodate all the different players as long as your badges or your segments are different player experiences. So maybe you have people who really love doing social challenges or who really love doing references. When a person who really loves giving references, who does a lot of references, gets to the very top level, the experience should be different, but it should also be unique to their path to the top level, right? Like, I'm just going to go back a slide. So here I say, at a higher level, the experience should be different. That's true. But it should be different in a way that relates to the path to that higher level. So if I love doing social challenges, and then I get to the highest level and I'm asked to do, the new cool thing that I'm able to access that I've sort of unlocked is a beta tester challenge, that might not necessarily appeal to the experience that I'm following. Maybe I'd rather have access to be interviewed by like a social influencer or something like that. So these are things to think about. So the one thing Truman really wants to stress, and that we as sort of believe as a principle, is that part of building a game is that you're creating a destination, the higher level, the all access, but you let your advocates choose the path. But you also have to keep in mind that the path has to be accessible, it has to be possible. So the same way that when we talk about rewards, we talk about the idea that you can't just only put up rewards that are worth 1,000,000 points and then give your advocates challenges that are only worth 100 points, making the whole process unattainable. You have to keep the same thing in mind for your levels. You have to make it possible for people to advance in the first place. If it's impossible, it's just going to be discouraging. And this is something Shannon from our CS team tells people all the time. When you think of it as playing a game, if you can't level up, you're not going to want to play. And for any of you like me who ever struggled to learn how to play a video game, when you're playing for that first hour and you just can't get it, it's not working for you, it becomes very, very frustrating. And if you can't level up, if you don't see improvement or achievement, it can become very, very discouraging. So this is another one of Truman's magical charts. So this is basically the game, Truman refers to this as like the golden path here, the game mechanics Zen, that blue arrow that goes up. And this is something that you want to keep in mind when you're sort of thinking about your AdvocateHub and designing the gamification, is that activities that are too easy are not going to motivate your advocates, but anything that's too hard or too frustrating, like I've just said, is also going to be demotivating. So you want to kind of find that happy medium, or the game mechanic Zen in the middle, where the longer that you play, it becomes more difficult. But so at first, you want it to be a little bit easy, and then as people play more and more and more, you want it to become increasingly difficult, so that the challenge remains, so that it doesn't become boring, but at the same time that it's not so difficult that it stops people from wanting to play as well. So how do you go about making the path walkable? So there's two elements we're going to talk about here. Number one is transparency, and number two is achievability. So you need to have both transparency and achievability when configuring this all. And transparency is really about making it clear that to an advocate how they can earn a badge or advance a level. It's really difficult for your advocate, if it's really difficult for your advocates to understand how to advance in the first place, then none of it's going to be motivating to them at all. It doesn't matter if you set up the best levels ever. If they don't get how it works, or if the system keeps changing, it's not going to be a motivating factor anymore. So in order to give people choice, especially, you need to make sure that it's very clear how many badges are required to advance a level, and how exactly you go about earning those badges. The other thing that we really want to stress is that it's a better experience for everyone if you don't take things away. So when you start building out your badges, it's good to start kind of simple if you're not sure what to do at first. Start with just a few badges, start very simple, even maybe points, just points-related badges, and then just iterate on the concepts and sort of build it up. But if you take things away, that can also be demotivating, because let's say I was working toward this thing that I wanted, and then, oh, now it's not even there. That's no good. The other thing is accessibility. So your advocates have to be able to advance through the levels. It has to be, it should say achievability, not accessibility, but the principle is sort of the same. It's this idea that your advocates need to be able to advance through the levels. They need to be able to earn the badges. So if you put up a badge that's required to get to a level, and the badge is, let's say, post on Twitter 5 times, but you never, ever, ever, ever put up any Twitter challenges, then that's going to be very demotivating for your advocates, because you have someone who's like, oh, I really want that badge. That's a badge I know I can get, but there's never any opportunity for them to do so. So when you put something as a badge in your AdvocateHub, or when you attach a badge to a level, you have to make sure that you're going to follow through the process and make it possible for someone to actually earn that badge. The other thing is you don't want to require people to need too many badges to advance. So let's say you set up your levels, and I'm just going to flip to the next slide so we can see what this looks like. So when an advocate is in the AdvocateHub, the badges they can see are only the badges that are attached to a level. So it'll say, for example, for Evangelist here, complete 3 badges to unlock this level. What we see a lot of the time is great variety in the level, with great variety of badges within the level, but it'll say something like complete 8 badges to unlock this level. Which the problem with that is it doesn't motivate your advocates, or doesn't give your advocates choice in the path to the destination. So what would be better, so the way we have it set up here, this is from Influitive VIP, complete 3 badges to unlock this level. That is something achievable, because if someone is only interested in doing references and referrals, or is only interested in writing testimonials and earning points, then they're going to be able to achieve this. But when you say, here's 8 really cool different badges, you must complete all 8 badges to get to this level, what you're saying is, I want you to do all of these things. It's really unlikely that's actually going to happen. So you're just kind of discouraging people. I mean, A, you're making it so that it's very unlikely that anyone will actually advance to your levels, and you're creating a discouraging experience. These people are coming in to do these activities and have some fun and, give back to you, but when the levels are unattainable like that, it can just be very, very frustrating. And you don't want to create that sort of frustration. So the other thing is that, with regards to accessibility, is that you want to make it clear how to earn a badge. So when you're configuring a badge, you always want to make sure that your badge description gives a clear explanation of how to earn that badge. So for example, this one, under Advocate, Social Bronze. Complete 10 or more social challenges to earn this badge. Okay, that's fairly straightforward. Again, with this one, 25K points badge. Hey there, serious earner, acquire this badge when you reach over 25,000 points. So I can click on that, and I know, okay, cool, as soon as I get 25,000 points, I will have this badge. And as soon as I've unlocked 3 of these badges, I will then be at the Evangelist level. Another one here, Spotlight Silver. Complete 7 or more Spotlight challenges to earn this badge. Spotlight challenges are opportunities where you speak with an analyst, PR individual, or even speak at an event. I really love this one because it gives it sets a very in-depth explanation. Spotlight challenges doesn't really mean anything. And one thing you want to be careful about is, just sort of saying, oh, testimonial challenge, or oh, this challenge. It might be based on your challenge type, but you also, when you're writing what your challenge description is, or your badge rule description, you want to really describe to the advocate what is required of them to get that badge. If your testimonial challenges are, if the testimonial challenge type in your AdvocateHub is always attached to challenges that have a similar name or a similar theme or a similar activity, make sure you call that out so that your advocates can really understand what action is required in order to achieve this goal. So I just have a few more here just to give you different examples of different reasons you can give people badges. So this one here, beta tester extraordinaire. You joined our beta test group and participated in 1 beta test activity. And again, this sets a clear expectation that you join the beta test group. Oh, okay, so this tells the advocate, if maybe they didn't even know the beta test group existed, okay, I'm going to go look for that challenge. And to that end, when you have a badge like this in there, you need to make sure that you have that challenge available. You joined our beta test group, so you have to have that challenge available to people. And you also have to make sure that there will be further future beta test activities available to your advocates to help them. This one here, you're super bright. So sometimes you're going to have badges that are just around the goals that you have yourself, whether it's references or referrals or testimonials. But you also, because your AdvocateHub isn't just about, it should be a two-way street. It's not just about you getting things from your AdvocateHub. It's, we talked about this, I think, in Dawn's class last time. It's not just about asks. It's about fun and it's about education. So when you're designing your badges, it's something you want to keep in mind. What elements of the program, other than asks, can you reward or motivate your advocates to do? And I think educational challenges is a great way to do that. Because you also don't want your badges to see, sometimes I think badges almost take on like a bossy quality, like do this for me, do that for me, do this for me, do that for me, and then I'll reward you. But educational challenges are something that advocates do for themselves, and I think that's also a reward-worthy activity. So just, keep in mind, what I really want you to kind of take away from this is to keep an open mind when you're thinking about badges, so that you can come up with different ideas like educational challenges or maybe even for different types of fun challenges. And maybe even giving advocates badges for participating in the community. Whatever activity you want to drive, not necessarily just ask-related activity. All of these things can have rewards and can have badges created around them. I mean, for some advocates, they're only going to want to come in and use the hub for education, and that's okay because that can be their path to the highest level, right? So you could have an education challenge at level 1, at level 2, and then at the final level as well. And if that's the path they want to take to the highest level, that's their choice. It's really just about giving the advocates the tools to play the game. So this one as well, another sort of offbeat example, you're a rewards shopper. Do you want to be hardcore encouraging your advocates to redeem rewards? That's certainly your call, but in our previous AdvocateHub class when we talked about rewards, we found there is a bit of a correlation between advocates redeeming rewards and advocates being engaged. And certainly we know that rewards are motivating for advocates, so it may be the type of behavior that you would like to motivate or encourage. And this one here, this is the Advocate badge. This is my personal favorite. And it's just, you've earned 40 badges. You get another badge. If badges are something that really motivates someone, then you can also create badges around that. Get a little meta with it. And this is our last example one. Another thing that we found is just earning points. Earning points badges is a simple way to advance your advocates through the levels. And we found that there were a couple of hubs who have primarily points-related badges, and then all of their other badges either sit in level 1 or sit in the no level section of the AdvocateHub when you're setting up your badges. And that is an easy way to get your advocates to actually advance through the process. When it's not really about points, when it's just about all these random different activities, as we've talked about, it's a little bit difficult to get people to kind of go through the motions. But doing activities by definition is going to get you points. So giving out points-related badges is a good way to help people move through the system. Even if you don't want to have just points-related badges, we definitely recommend that you have at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or more points-related badges in each level. Maybe not with the points gaps that you see here on the screen. Those were just like the template examples that I happened to have when I was setting this up for the class. But if you wanted to get them for lower points amounts or higher points amounts, that's definitely something you could do. And that would be a really good way to help people move through the system and sort of just get them used to the idea of advancing levels and earning badges. You want to start it out simple, so this is a good way to do that. So, what are our takeaways? Where do you go from here? You're the admin. You want to get your levels and badges to be a little bit better shape. Where do you start? Number one thing is just keep it simple. As I just said, begin with your points-related badges and add others from there. Again, avoid taking things away. So don't just kind of randomly make up what your badges are going to be and just sort of come up with this kind of off-the-beat, like ad hoc system. Make sure that you actually have like a proper system in place and a proper understanding of exactly like what you're trying to achieve with your badges. So ask yourself, what are my goals? What are the goals of your program? Are you not interested in getting referrals? Okay, good. Then don't get a referrals badge. Are you very interested in getting referrals? Okay, sure. Maybe put in a referrals badge and maybe think about some sort of referrals-related badges that you can also give people. So maybe you could reward advocates for not just giving referrals, but also for referring friends to also join the AdvocateHub. Maybe you could give like many different badges for submitting different amounts of referrals. There's all kinds of different things that you can do if you're really interested in references, if you're really interested in your advocates, talking to each other or becoming educated, using this as an onboarding tool. If you want to use your AdvocateHub in the onboarding process for your own customers, this is a great way to do that. You can also give badges for completing different steps in the onboarding process. So you're really just trying to isolate or try to think about what are the possible types of activity that I want to motivate my advocates to do. But at the same time, also think about what your advocates might want to do. And don't just make it all about you asking them for something. Try to be, I guess, a little bit more empathetic and think about things that they're also going to think are fun and enjoyable and that they also might want to do. And the other thing here is, how do I value the badges? And with this, it's really all relative. So you want to think about your points economy. Think about what certain asks or activities, what is their value to you? So for example, if you're looking at your level 1 badges, or let's say your level 2 badges, to get to level 2, you might ask someone to do 3 referrals, but you're not also going to ask, say, the social media badge requirement for level 2 is not going to be 3 social media posts. It might be 30 social media posts, perhaps more, perhaps less. So it's not just sort of like one of this activity, one of this activity, one of this activity. That's a badge for level 1. And then, increase by 1 for level 2. As your levels increase, it should be a little bit more difficult with each advancement to get to the next level, but it should also be relative. You want it to sort of be a reasonable experience. If you require someone to do 5 referrals to get to level 2 or 5 social media posts, the person who's on that social media path, they're going to get there way faster and they're going to get bored. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about what the value is of the activity to you, because you want to make sure that you're properly motivating advocates to sort of provide a certain value level of activity. But also, what's that activity worth to them, just in terms of the time it might take, sort of the experience it's going to create for them. I mean, if it only takes 30, or let's say 10 social media shares to get to the 3rd level, how challenging was that? And thinking back to our earlier chart about finding that happy medium between too difficult and too easy, you want to just keep these things in mind. Okay, so some key takeaways. We're almost done here. So, first of all, you want to start simple. Start with your points badges. If you already have an AdvocateHub, this doesn't really apply quite so much to you. But as you're reevaluating your system, if you decide to take that route, just remember to start simple. And then think outwards about what you want your program to be about, or what your program is about, and how you want to go about motivating the type of activities and the types of value adds that you want to get out of this advocacy program. The other thing is to, as part of that, build more badges based on your goals. With that, you also want to make sure it's possible to advance through the levels. So when you're creating, again, as I've said, your different badges, make sure that you're not requiring people to complete too many of the badges out of a variety in order to advance to the next level. And you might even consider, let's say, having 4 different badges around the same idea to get to a level. So maybe instead of just having 1 social media badge required to get to level 2, you might have 4 or 5 social media badges. And so the advocate can see their own progression towards that path, along that path, but still sort of have the choice to remain within that activity. If it takes 3 badges to get to the next level, while your advocates are interested in participating in the other activities that are available to them, they'll say they only want to do social, or they only want to do testimonials, or they only want to do beta testing. Don't let that limit them. These people are coming in, they're advocating for you, they're loving for you, they're, giving you their time and their effort and their energy. You want to make sure that, you're recognizing that, that is good enough. That, yeah, we really like that you're doing beta testing. That's really cool. Oh, we're really happy you, participate in that case study. But too bad. If you're never going to give us referrals, then you're never going to get to the next level. So really, think about what the type of messaging your level progression experience gives to your advocates, because I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. So ensure that advancing the levels can result in a unique experience. That's the last one. So not only does it need to be possible to advance through the levels, but there needs to be an actual value to advancing through that level. So the experience of being an intro, level 1 advocate, or, just no level advocate, should be in some way unique or different from being a level 2 and a level 3 advocate. So when you're creating challenges, when you're offering, especially actually when you're offering rewards, these are things you want to keep in mind. The really good rewards, you might not show them to the people at level 1. Those high-value things, those high-value asks, you might want to keep those aside for the higher-level advocates. I mean, let's say someone levels up to level 2 and they realize, wow, this experience is different. I really want to get to level 3 now because I want to see what the experience is going to be like. So, I didn't put in my question slide. I knew I'd forgotten something today, but I do see a question here. So I'm going to start taking questions. So I'm just going to get Lindsay from ReadyTalk to pop in and give you guys the instructions on how to submit questions if you're on a phone. And you can also submit questions via chat. Lindsay?
Thank you, Heather. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're dialed in on the phone lines, you may register for a question by dialing 1 followed by 4 on your telephone keypad. Your line will briefly be accessed just to obtain your name, and you'll be placed back into the conference. So once again, if you're dialed in on the phone lines, please dial 1 and then 4 to register for a question.
Okay, so we have one question here that I'm going to answer, and then if you guys have any other questions, just go ahead and submit them in the chat. So I have a question here from Mary at CloudWords. Mary's asking, looking at the full lifespan of the advocate, several years, how much time should be spent on each of the 4 levels? What is the ideal we should look at? Example, 4 months on level 1, 1 year on level 2, etc. This is a really good question, Mary, and I don't know that I have the most detailed answer for you. I definitely agree with sort of what you're proposing here, this idea of 4 months on level 1, 1 year on level 2, not necessarily in terms of the time, but on the idea that each level should be more difficult to advance through, and therefore it should take a little bit more time to get from level 2 to level 3 than it would, to get from level 1 to level 2. To be honest, this is, like Influitive is new and the AdvocateHub is new, and I'm not sure we actually have enough data to sort of understand what is the correct length of time for your advocate to be progressing. What is the ideal experience in terms of where people should be in the level experience? I think what I would more so look to is what can you do? How is there sort of I guess I would more so just look for consistency. If people advancing at all? That's sort of the first thing I think we should all be addressing is like, are people advancing at all, and how can I make that happen? And I think that once people get to the 3rd level, I think sort of what you're almost suggesting here is that we might reach a point in time, well, what happens when everyone's in level 3? And I think from there we can look at things like perhaps adding more levels, reevaluating how that's all set up, but also finding ways to just create more value for your sort of very high-level advocates and the people who have gotten all the way to the top rockstar level. As for how long it should take for people to be there, to be honest, I don't know. So I'm actually going to take this question to our team, to our product management team, and see if they have any feedback on that, because I don't really have a great answer for you, as you can tell, because I just keep rambling. But it's definitely an interesting thing to think about, and something that we should probably look a bit more into. So I'm going to figure that out for you, Mary. Does anyone else have any questions while we're all here? Okay. So I am going to call class to a close. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate how many of you not only came out today, but also stayed the whole time. As per usual, we will be sending a copy of the recording of the class either tonight or tomorrow morning. So look forward to that. You can share it with all your friends. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And we will be chatting with you again in 2 weeks. Dawn will be doing class at that time. And in the meantime, you can reach out to us at the Influitive forums. You can learn more about the stuff in our knowledge base, or you can, just, again, email us at support@influitive.com. Okay, thank you all very much, and have a great day.